I've done videos in the last few months about the so-called first serial killer of England and the most vicious serial killer in all of history, who were both women, by the way. Now I bring you a list of some of the youngest serial killers in history. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. If you don't know what's going on here, I'm a horror artist and I like to draw what I talk about in the videos. Now, I love anything that's scary, UFOs, aliens, conspiracies, just anything like that. So I decided to combine my two loves for all that with drawing. So that's what this channel is all about. And if you like this kind of content, I am the channel for you. Now, nothing in these videos is meant to be insensitive to the victims or the victims' families, but if you are a sensitive person, you might want to probably go somewhere else. With that being said, let's get on with the video. Kids. They are supposed to be innocent, miracles, and the apple of their parents' eye, but some miss that mark and become something else, little soulless monsters. In this video, I'm going to list 12 young serial killers from history, counting down from the oldest to the youngest ever recorded. This is just some of the more infamous ones, but there is surprisingly a lot mentioned throughout history. Number 12. Marcelo Perseguini, 13 years old. A Brazilian boy named Marcelo Perseguini allegedly killed his police officer parents, his grandmother and auntie while they were sleeping, and then turned his father's police gun on himself and killed himself. It was a Sunday night when he apparently committed the murders in 2013 and then drove his parents' car to school the next day at 1:25 a.m. and waited until school opened in the car. Spent the day there and returned by walking back home, which was caught on security camera, where he shot himself in the head. Apparently, his school friends said that Marcelo had been talking about killing his family for a while, but some theories suggest that it was a setup by corrupt cops, as his mother was responsible for bringing corrupt cops to justice, so she may have had a target on her head and they just used the kid as a pawn, because how could someone fire a gun 4 times and not alarm one other family member to intercept? Was he told to play along with a certain narrative? We may never know, as apparently the police refused to investigate fully. Number 11. Craig Price, 13 years old. A Rhode Island teen named Craig Price was 13 years old when he committed his first murder on the 27th of July, 1987. He stabbed 27-year-old Rebecca Spencer 58 times, killing her after breaking into her home that was 2 doors up from his own. Then 2 years later, he murdered 3 other neighbors on the 1st of September 1989 at just 15 years old. He was high on marijuana and LSD and stabbed 39-year-old Joan Heaton 57 times and her daughters 10-year-old Jennifer and 7-year-old Melissa a total of 100 times between the both. The stabbings were so horrific that parts of the knife blade broke off in each victim. He blamed racism for his motive to murder, initially saying that white people tried to run him over. He is currently still in jail and still stabs inmates to this very day, which has now extended his sentence. Number 10. Ida Schell, 13 years old. German girl Ida Schell was 13 years old when she killed 6 infants in Munich back in 1907 by sticking hairpins through their skulls because she apparently hated the sound of their crying. She didn't kill all 6 infants at 13, but started at that age, and she did this over a period of time as a nurse and maid. She moved from job to job as the babies in her care kept dying, but she ended up confessing to the horrible crimes after the 6th funeral as she started raising suspicions. Number 9. Robert Kums, 13 years old. An Englishman, Robert Kums, was 13 years old when he murdered his mother in 1895. Apparently, when Robert was born, he needed forceps to come out of his mother, which left visible marks on his head, and at age 3 was complaining of headaches. He became obsessed with murderers such as Jack the Ripper and the Penny Dreadful stories. He apparently purchased a knife, and while his mother was sleeping at 3:45 a.m, he stabbed her in the heart 2 times and then went back to bed, which was in the same room. At 8:30 a.m, he woke and told his brother Nathaniel that he had killed their mother. He went to see, and their mother was still alive groaning, so the brother just covered her head and they left the house. She wasn't found for a week or 2 after. Neighbours became suspicious and forced entry into the home, where they found the woman badly decomposed in her bed covered in maggots. Robert and Nathaniel were arrested and served 17 years in jail. Him and his brother were then moved out to Australia in 1914. Oh great, we don't want him here. Number 8. Jasmine Richardson, 12 years old. 12-year-old Canadian teen Jasmine Richardson murdered 3 of her family members on the 23rd of April 2006. She and her boyfriend, 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke, killed Jasmine's parents and her little brother. Her parents' body were found in the basement and her 8-year-old brother was found upstairs. She was caught 130 kilometres away with her boyfriend in Leader, Saskatchewan. Her reason for doing it was that her parents had grounded her for dating a 23-year-old. She told friends that she was also a 300-year-old vampire and liked the taste of blood. She was sentenced to 10 years in jail, and the sentence's time was shared between a mental institution and jail. Jeremy served 3 life sentences with eligible parole after 25 years. Jasmine is currently walking around out in the world after being released officially in 2016. Number 7. Curtis Fairchild Jones, 12 years old. A US man, Curtis Fairchild Jones, and his sister, 13 years old at the time, Catherine, killed their father's girlfriend, Sonia Nicole Spites, in 1999 because she was stealing their father's attention away from them. But another source said that it was because of sexual abuse that they were suffering from their male relative, and their father was the target as well as the male relative and Sonia. They only targeted Sonia as they thought that she was the enabler, but after firing a gun and shooting her 9 times, they realized their mistake. They were both sentenced to 18 years in jail with a lifelong probation. Both Curtis and Catherine were released from prison in 2015. Number 6. Mary Bell, 11 years old. Englishwoman Mary Bell was 11 years old when she killed 2 preschooler boys in 1968. She strangled 4-year-old Martin Brown in a derelict house and with her friend Norma Bell, which was no relation to her, and then both honed in on 3-year-old Brian Howe after playing with him in the street. He didn't return home, so neighbours and relatives went looking for him and found him at 11:10 p.m. between 2 large concrete blocks. He too had been strangled, with injuries on his body made by a pair of scissors found near his body, and his genitals were partly mutilated, and an M was poorly carved into his stomach. Mary was labelled England's youngest serial killer and still remains that today. She served prison time and was released in 1980 at the age of 23 after serving 11.5 years in jail. Number 5. Andrew Gold, 11 years old. In 1998, on the 24th of March, 11-year-old Andrew Gold with 13-year-old Mitchell Johnson loaded Mitchell's mother's Dodge Caravan with weapons, snacks, and camping supplies. They parked the car at the back of the school and set up a gun, and Andrew went into the school to set the fire alarms off so all students and teachers would come out onto the oval. Andrew quickly ran back to Mitchell, and then they all came out for the supposed fire drill. Andrew opened fire on the group and killed 4 students and 1 teacher and injuring heaps. The shooting went on for 4 minutes. They tried to run from the police, but they were caught. They were sentenced and released in 2005 and 2007 at the age of 21. Andrew died in a car accident in 2019 after having a head-on with another car. He was 33 years old. Number 4. Robert Thompson and John Venables, both 10 years old. John Venables and Robert Thompson abducted 2-year-old James Bulger from a shopping mall on the 12th of February 1993, all caught on CCTV, and brutally tortured him and left his mutilated body on the railway tracks in Walton, Liverpool, England. 38 people witnessed the 3 boys walking 4 kilometres to where they murdered the 2-year-old and no one intervened. Both boys were charged on the 20th of February 1993 and found guilty 4 days later and sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure until age 18 in 2001. John was in and out of jail until he was sent to prison again in November 2017 for possessing child sexual abuse photos on his computer for 40 months. He has a new identity. Now, Robert is apparently in a long-term relationship with a man who knows exactly who he is, but is living under a new identity as well. He has not reoffended, even though he was labelled the ringleader of the murder. Number 3. Kyano Santos Godino, 9 years old. Argentinian man Kyano Santos Godino was 9 years old when he became quite a little pyro, and on the 17th of January 1912 he set fire to a warehouse, killing a 13-year-old inside. On the 7th of March 1912 he set fire to a 5-year-old girl's dress. She got extensive burns and died. In September 1912 he set fire to a railway station. On the 8th of November 1912, he tried to strangle an 8-year-old boy and was charged with assault. On the 16th of November 1912, he assaulted a 3-year-old girl who suffered minor injuries because a cop intervened just in time. But on the 3rd of December 1912, he saw 3-year-old Eraldo Godino playing in his front yard and convinced him to go with him. Kyano took the boy to a house and tried to strangle him with a belt, but was unsuccessful, so he cut the belt and bound the boy's hands and legs with it. Kyano found a nail and nailed it straight into Eraldo's head and then hid the body. The boy's father was looking for him and found him not long after he had been murdered. Kyano was arrested and thrown in jail, but suffered beatings from inmates after Kyano killed their pet cats and had to be moved, but he spent a lot of time in and out of hospital because he was always sick. He died on the 15th of November 1944 under suspicious circumstances. Number 2. Carol Cole, 8 years old. A man from Iowa, US, he committed his first murder at the age of 8 years old. He drowned a boy the same age as him who was a classmate in a lake in Richmond, California in 1946. As a teen, he committed petty crimes and joined the army, but got discharged for stealing pistols. He confessed to police that he had fantasies of strangling women. He was then put into a mental hospital over the next 3 years and had antisocial personality disorder. He was released and moved to Texas and married a stripper, but he accused her of sleeping with men at a hotel, so he burnt it down. He then tried to strangle an 11-year-old and was sentenced to 5 years in jail. After release, he moved to Nevada and attempted to strangle 2 more women. Then he checked himself into a mental hospital again. He was released and sent to San Diego. On the 7th of May 1971, he strangled a woman named Essie in his car and killed her. 2 weeks later, he killed again. And in 1973, he married a barmaid, but they fought a lot, and he would disappear for days and kill women and even cannibalize one. In 1979, he then strangled his barmaid wife. He moved again and met Marie at Las Vegas and strangled her during sex. He returned to Dallas and strangled 3 more women in 1980 and was caught and convicted of all murders in 1981 and sentenced to life in prison. He was then sentenced to the death penalty in 1985 via lethal injection. Number 1. Amit Sada, 7 years old. Now, the world's youngest serial killer is an Indian boy named Amit Sada, and he was 7 years old when he was labelled the world's youngest serial killer. His auntie came to visit with her child. Amit's mother and auntie left the house, leaving Amit to look after his young sister and cousin. His baby cousin started to cry, so he wanted it to stop. So he strangled the baby to death and hid the baby under grass. He confessed to his mother what he had did, and she was shocked, but both his mother and father hid it from the police and his auntie. Amarjit's next victim was his baby sister. He strangled her while his parents slept. The two murders went unreported until he killed a third 6-month-old baby in 2007, which was a neighbour's baby. He was reported then and taken away by police and admitted to his first 2 murders. He was sentenced to a child's home detention until he was 18. He now apparently lives under a new identity and is around 23 years old. That is some scary shit to learn about children killing other children. And what are your thoughts on these disturbing child murders? If you want any more in-depth details on these cases, just head across to Google and type each of these names in and you can read up all about them. The most disturbing one with the most gruesome details was James Bulger. What they did to him was absolutely horrific and sickening. Now, the illustration that I decided to do for this video today was of a creepy, demonic child who has gone around and he's basically collecting body parts. So he's got one head on the ground, which he's sliced off from somebody. He's got a hand tied to this big weapon thing that he's got with all these nails on the end, which is just pissing out blood because this sicko has just gone around killing things, and then he's holding a weird looking child in one of his hands, and basically that's his next victim, or it is his victim, because this thing looks very green and gross and like it's not alive anyway. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. Dislike it, I couldn't care less. Everything that you do that interacts with my channel gets the algorithm out there to find more people who like this kind of content. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.